I'd like to talk about that with him. So we'll work that out one of these days. One of these days. I had all of my notes on my phone just now, though, and then my phone just turned off. So, notes and things. But we were going to talk about a lot of things today, including the NFL draft. The NFL draft, because Derrick Henry has officially declared for the 2016 NFL draft. Paxton Lynch, the quarterback out of Memphis, he's starting to look like, to many people, to many scouts, like the best quarterback in the draft. And I haven't done a mock draft this year. I used to do mock drafts and post them on my blog. I might do that again this year. But the thing about mock drafts is this. They are time wasting. They are soul crushing. And then on draft day, you feel like a moron because, of course, the draft never goes how you thought it was going to go. But I used to do the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. I had one year where I was really accurate and right, and I felt super smart. And then the next year, it was just completely wrong. It was misery incarnate. People call you an idiot on Twitter. You're wrong about stuff. That's this business. It happens to you. It happens to everybody. But I want to talk about that a little bit because Chip Kelly, a lot of people thought, there was a chance he would return back to college football, back to the sidelines of a college school somewhere, and coach that team back into relevance, a la Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. And that hasn't happened, quite frankly. He's still in the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers have hired Chip Kelly to be their head coach. And I'm interested because they've stuck with Trent Baalke, right? Trent Baalke is the guy at GM for the 49ers. They've stuck with him. And in fact, that's the reason why Harbaugh's not in town, is because Trent Baalke had to, stage a coup, basically, made the team choose between him and Harbaugh. The team chose him, let Harbaugh go. And you're bringing in another guy in Chip Kelly who likes to be in control, of the personnel that he acquires and where from and who with. So that's an interesting marriage there because Chip Kelly doesn't like to relent control either. That's the reason why he's not in Philadelphia anymore. He took over personnel decisions and just changed up that team and wasn't as successful for the amount of changing and messing around that he was doing. Like, for all of that changing, you lose Deshaun Jackson, you lose LaShawn McCoy, you move Nick Foles, you move you don't re-sign Jeremy Maclin. All of those moves, for all of the switching and changing and flipping of switches, you had 2 seasons where you were 10-6. One of those got you into the playoffs. The other one didn't. And then another season where you were 8-8, So you're pretty subpar there. It's not, sure, they're winning seasons to, a 500 season. You'd like to have seen what he could have built if he had stayed in Philadelphia, but he kind of did it to himself. Let somebody else make the personnel decisions because, again, and it's the huge issue with him is that Chip Kelly, the coach, I don't think that we can argue with his mind, that we can argue with his brilliance, the success that he had at Oregon. That's legit. That's for real. But we can't argue with Chip Kelly, the general manager. Chip Kelly, the personnel guy, doesn't have a clue. Okay? And he's running an offense that is getting off of the field quickly. And then he's got a defense that seriously is going to get tired. All right. Cassell was on with Colin Cowherd this morning, and you can listen to the herd with Colin Cowherd on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio from 12 to 3. I believe I said 12 to 1 yesterday, and I have no idea why I said that. From 12 to 3, you can listen to the herd with Colin Cowherd. He was interviewing Cassell this morning, and Cassell was basically saying, Chip Kelly's defenses require a lot of personnel and a lot of depth because they're on the field forever. Chip Kelly's ultimate goal is to play offense at such a high rate that his offenses aren't really on the field. He's not worried about winning the time of possession battle. He's trying to win the score. Right? And with how he played in Philadelphia, they didn't have the depth on defense to do what he wanted to do. Part of the issue was they were getting off the field quick, all right. They weren't scoring any of them points. that important thing that you need to be getting when you are playing college football or NFL football or any kind of football. The scoreboard. Remember yesterday we were talking about the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and what they were doing. They were eliminating different taunts and different jeers that you could do as a crowd. One of the things that they wanted to get rid of was the scoreboard chant, which is ridiculous, but also the reason why that's a thing is because the scoreboard is ultimately the most important thing in the game. That is what decides ultimately whether you win or lose, whether quarterbacks keep their job or lose their job, whether coaches keep their job or lose their job. Scoreboard. And they weren't getting enough points, but even if they were, the defense was having to be out on the field forever. You look at that game, week 16 against the Redskins, the Philadelphia Eagles couldn't get the Redskins off the field if they tried, and they were trying real hard. Just wasn't working out for them. So Chip Kelly in San Francisco now, and I want to see how that works, but here's the thing. Colin Kaepernick, Chip Kelly, to me, that looks like a match made in heaven. But does Colin Kaepernick have enough confidence, right? Does Colin Kaepernick have enough confidence in himself? Or does he need a new start? Because he looked punch drunk at a point this season. He just looked like he had just gone through the ringer about 4 weeks into this season. They won that first game, Monday nighter against Minnesota, and then never did Colin Kaepernick look the same again. I mean, the dude just looked beaten up, just wrecked. And, you could see it in his eyes. Like, he just didn't want to be there anymore. Is that a guy that you want to trot out next season? Or does he need a new start? And you can't run Blaine Gabbert out there. Blaine Gabbert had about 3 or 4 games where you're like, oh my goodness, Blaine Gabbert looks like a real quarterback. Maybe it was just Jacksonville. Maybe it's just something in the Jacksonville water, and just Blaine Gabbert couldn't help himself. He was just throwing interceptions left and right because that's just what happens in Jacksonville. You go to Vegas, you party, you gamble, you go to Nashville, you eat nice dinners, you listen to country music, you go to Jacksonville, you just throw interceptions. It's what you do. Maybe that's what it was, Jacksonville. But no, the last few games of the season, Blaine Gabbert looked like the old Blaine Gabbert that we know and love. And you can't run that guy out there next year in a 49ers uniform as starter. You might be able to run him out there as a backup. You can't run that guy out there as a starter next year. You cannot do that. That is insane. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're talking about the San Francisco 49ers and them hiring Chip Kelly. And where that all culminates to is the 49ers are in a good position to draft, in the draft, Paxton Lynch from Memphis, who Memphis was good this entire season. And part of the reason why was Paxton Lynch, your quarterback. He was legit. Okay, he can really, really ball. That guy is no joke. And got to watch a few games with him on that undefeated run this season, and he's got real great control of that offense, but he's also got like a really great form, right? Like there's guys that come into the league and they don't have great form. Even Andrew Luck has had things that he's had to clean up and change. And actually his form has regressed a lot this past season, due in part to the injuries and the fact that Indianapolis, that offensive line is just four turnstiles and a pretty decent center. Like just a bunch of guys that just are revolving doors. Come on ahead, defensive end. Just you want it, Andrew? Hit him. We don't care. It was awful. It was awful. They need to do something about that O-line there, but his form regressed. Here's Paxton Lynch. Here's a guy that's throwing with incredible accuracy. He points his feet where he wants to throw. He pushes off of his back leg. He doesn't just use his arm. He keeps his eyes downfield and his head up. Form. He's got great form, and I think that is just something that San Francisco could use right out the gate, because Colin Kaepernick didn't have great form. Colin Kaepernick was throwing passes off his back foot. And why? Because he had a super laser rocket arm. That's why. He could just throw wherever he wanted to, because it's just all arm strength. But the problem is, you're not as accurate as you want to be. Donovan McNabb could do that too. And you know what? That didn't age well. Doesn't age well. Because as you get older and your arm starts to get weaker, you're gonna start throwing passes into the dirt, which is where Donovan McNabb was throwing those. Just right into the dirt. Which is great if the dirt were a receiver, if you had a receiver named Dirt, but that's not what you had. What you had was the ground, the cold, unforgiving, incomplete pass-causing ground. And Colin Kaepernick, in my mind, was always destined for that, even if he had worked out. His prime was going to be based on how hard can he throw the ball. And once he can't do that anymore, it's over. He wasn't beating defenses with his mind. Colin Kaepernick, the defenses were reading Colin Kaepernick like an open book. His arm was so strong and so powerful, the ball was getting there before defensive backs could arrive, which is amazing and incredible. And why you have patience with a guy like Kaepernick, because you'd like to think that if a guy like this could ever read a defense, you know what I mean? Like if a guy like this could learn to pick him apart mentally, on top of that arm strength, which will make up for mistakes he could make, man. But you can't run him back out there to San Francisco 49ers fans again, which is why I'm saying the 49ers ought to draft Paxton Lynch from Memphis. This guy's legit. He's the real deal. And my phone just turned back on, so I can start to pull up some Paxton Lynch numbers so that I can show you that I know what I'm talking about. I like this guy. I like him a lot. Another question that I have is who's taking Derrick Henry? Who's taking Derrick Henry? That's super interesting, because he's an amazing running back, but Alabama running backs in the NFL have underachieved from what they've done in college. Think Mark Ingram, who's been solid, right? But with the fanfare that he came into the league with, you weren't thinking that he was just going to be solid. I don't know. I never thought that he was going to be like Adrian Peterson, but solid. I thought he would be above average, and he's just kind of average. Like, he's got some above average games, but he's just kind of average. And then Trent Richardson was just a complete nightmare, which was crazy, because I watched the NFL Network, I watched ESPN, I read every magazine, and everybody had Adrian Peterson in his prime as Trent Richardson's pro comparison. And I don't know that you could have found anything further from the truth. I don't know that you could have found anything further from reality. Because that dude couldn't play in the NFL. Straight up. It was weird. He would look at holes in his offensive line. They would do an amazing job. Make a gigantic hole that you could drive buses through. Trent Richardson couldn't find the hole. It's the most annoying thing. Like, his last stop with the Raiders, I'll put it up on the Facebook page because you guys have to see this. This Trent Richardson is running in a Raiders preseason game, and there is a giant hole. They are 5 yards away from the end zone. Trent Richardson either doesn't see the hole or decides to do some freelancing. I don't know what he was looking at. I'm sure. I don't know. But whatever it was that he saw was wrong, because he ran straight into the back of his center where he was tackled and brought down. And you just have to scratch your head and go, what on earth is this guy doing? Are you sure he was an Alabama running back? You sure that was the guy? Because I had trouble believing it. And that was after, in Cleveland, he wasn't good in Cleveland. And for me, I was giving him a pass, because I was like, okay, I watched Trent Richardson run in Alabama. I know this guy's good. Okay? you want to give him a pass. He goes to Indianapolis where there should be much less pressure to perform, right? All the pressure is going to be on luck. You don't have to be picking up 8 yards to carry. This isn't college. Like 4 yards to carry. We didn't even get that from him. There was just a point where Trent Richardson was statistically the worst running back in the history of the National Football League. And I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen to Derrick Henry. I've seen Derrick Henry hit holes that were created for him and just gash defenses. And he's a brutal runner. I would say even more brutal than Richardson, but Richardson was pretty beastly in college too. Brutal. I don't think the same thing's going to happen to Derrick Henry, but the faith that you had in the Alabama quarterback or Alabama running back, gone, man. Gone. It's not completely disappeared. And Alabama running backs are still going to be incredible. I think they're always going to recruit well at that position. And again, I like Derrick Henry. You know, Bill Bender being the sportingnews.com national college football writer, make sure to check him out and read his articles. He's pretty amazing, smart guy. I mean, he was actually the guy that had Derrick Henry in his Heisman Trophy mix well before many people in the national media. Derrick Henry was that good all season long, but we just got so caught up with Fournette, and when Alabama lost to Ole Miss, you know, we kind of soured on that team, and he got punished for it. But you know what? This Derrick Henry guy's pretty good, and I wonder which team's going to be the benefactor of him, because if you don't pick him up, if you need a running back and you don't take him early, I mean, you made mistakes. You've made a series of bad mistakes, and you should feel bad. Okay, and Memphis. You know, Memphis had that winning streak. They won 9 in a row, and Paxton Lynch was on the season. He threw for 3,776 yards, 28 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. You know, they did have a 3-game losing streak at near the end of the season there. But, hey, you can't argue with those numbers. Over 3,000 yards, a 28-4 touchdown to interception ratio. And again, incredible form from Paxton Lynch. I think he's a good fit. I'd like to see Paxton Lynch and Chip Kelly working it out in the University of Memphis. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose, and I'll see you on the other side. We'll talk some basketball in the SEC.
Who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business and becoming self-sufficient. Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years. 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. 875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Call me now, 875-5621.
While politicians debate climate change and taking our guns, they leave America vulnerable to disaster. You need to act now to keep your family safe and prepared. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have long-term storage food? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? If not, what are you waiting for? Call P5 Preparedness right now, 423-602-2175. Do you honestly think the government is going to help you? If you do, you are wrong, dead wrong. Don't get caught unprepared. Let the experts at P5 Preparedness get you ready for any emergency or disaster situation. Today, we offer a wide range of classes for the beginner on how to prepare, as well as the expert prepper. We stock a wide range of supplies, including long-term storage food, water filtration, outdoor gear, tactical gear, and plate carriers. P5 Preparedness, East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. You will see the Army Deuce and a Half truck, 423-602-2175, 1309 Panorama Drive, Chattanooga. P5preparedness.com.
Don't be a victim. Arm yourself today at Carter Shooting Supply and Indoor Range, offering the finest selection of personal firearms and ammo, especially the hard-to-find ammunition. You know the police can't protect you. They show up after the crime is committed. The ability to protect yourself, your family, and when called upon, your nation is enshrined in the United States Constitution. Shop the largest selection of shooting supplies on their online store, CarterShootingSupply.com. Carter Shooting Supply and Indoor Range, the largest and cheapest selection in Chattanooga. 6210 Highway 58, Harrison. Call 344-1099. That's 344-1099. Keep your family safe by buying them a certificate for Carter Shooting Supply Tennessee Handgun Permit Class. And stop by today to consult one of their qualified experts. They'll fit you perfectly to the firearm that meets your needs. Call 344-1099. You'll always find the widest selection of new and used firearms at Carter Shooting Supply and Indoor Range. 6210 Highway 58, Harrison. Call 344-1099.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. 3 adults have now been charged in connection to the Ottawa rape case. Basketball coach Andre Tank Montgomery, assistant coach Carl Williams, and Ottawa athletic director Allard J. Nyadli are now named in the complaint filed in Hamilton County. Previously, the coach, Andre Montgomery, had been moved to a non-teaching position within Hamilton County, and now he has been charged in this complaint. The charge against him is failure to report child sex abuse under Tennessee's mandatory reporter law. Previously, 3 teammates were also charged with aggravated rape. The charges were filed by Hamilton County District Attorney Neil Pinkston at the Hamilton County Juvenile Court. Be sure to look at the Hot News Talk Radio Twitter account for more updates and hotnewstalkradio.com. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
A few more clouds are rolling through the nighttime hours. Not as cold overnight, lows into the upper 30s. For Friday, mostly cloudy. A few late showers may move in from the west. Highs 50 to 52. Tomorrow night, showers will diminish with dry and cooler weather returning Saturday with highs staying into the 40s. Dodge City Ski Shop will keep you and your family toasty warm through winter with long underwear, wool socks, and Columbia jackets for all shapes and sizes. Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
There are just some guys who are inherently great for sports. I mean, just the essence of them, they are inherently great for sports. And there are some sound bites that I like to use from those guys. That they're polarizing people. They say crazy, silly things, and they're great for sports. They really are. And one of those people is Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith is ESPN's professional angry man who says things in his angry voice, and that passes for sports analysis on ESPN. It does. It just does. The part of Stephen A. Smith and his charm is not that he says things that are true, useful, correct, that even make any sense. Stephen A. Smith, his allure, the reason why you listen to Stephen A. Smith say things is because he says them like an angry person, which is his professional daytime job. Here's Stephen A. Smith talking about Kevin Durant. Stephen A. Smith said that Kevin Durant was leaving Oklahoma City. Kevin Durant said he never spoke to Stephen A. Smith, called him a liar. And Stephen A. Smith, he wouldn't have any of that.
You don't want to make an enemy out of me. And I'm looking right into the camera, and I'm going to say it again. You do not want to make an enemy out of me. I'm not having it.
He's not having it. He's not having it.
I'm not having it.
He's not having it. Look, here's the thing about Stephen A. Smith. He just opens his mouth and says stuff. And I don't know how much thought goes into what he's saying. I imagine some. They do pre-show meetings. They talk about numbers. They talk about stats. But Stephen A. Smith is going to say the most volatile thing, not the most accurate thing. That's why he's great for sports. That despite being a journalist whose job is to remain out of the story, Stephen A. Smith is a guy who would threaten a person who disputed his story. You can't threaten people as a journalist. It doesn't work. Then you're not a journalist anymore. You're just a guy in front of a microphone. You're not a journalist anymore. That's not journalism. Like, if somebody calls you a liar, stand by your story, but don't threaten them.
You don't want to make an enemy out of me.
Why not? So we have Stephen A. Smith. That's just who he is as a human being, and it's great for sports. There are athletes who are great for sports. Anything that Cam Newton does is great for sports. Cam Newton gives a football to a child, great for sports. Cam Newton is dancing in the end zone, Superman, or he's dabbing on people. That's a great thing too. It is beautiful. Cam Newton is a beautiful soul, and he's great for sports. Like everything that Cam Newton decides to do, I'm on board with like all of it. The league may not be, which is hypocritical and a discussion for another day entirely, right? But Cam Newton's great for sports. You know, when people just say things emotionally and angrily, that's great for sports. You know, Kirk Cousins.
You like that? You like that?
We do like that. And I mean, gosh, that was a rallying point in the season. I'm a Redskins fan. I like that very much. I like this season very much. And how it went up until the end when the Redskins went out of the season with a whimper. But again, great for sports. But one of the most underrated people in terms of them being great for sports, Jim Harbaugh. He is fantastic for sports. Jim Harbaugh is incredible for sports. He is. And what makes Jim Harbaugh so incredible is his defiance. It's over the top. It's over the top. Nobody breaks rules quite like Jim Harbaugh breaks rules. Okay? And here's a report from 11warriors.com. They're following Jim Harbaugh and his fight against the NCAA in an attempt to seemingly break all of their rules and get away with it. So here's Jim Harbaugh, who thumbs his nose at NCAA recruiting rules and continues his quest to sleep with teens, which sounds worse than it really is. But Jim, the recruiting dead period is over, which means you can now go out and recruit. Jim Harbaugh obviously one of the great recruiters in college football, apparently, because he's doing a lot of things. For instance, he was at Detroit Jesuit today, and the juniors are not allowed to take pictures with Jim Harbaugh because the NCAA has a rule that says you cannot take pictures with recruits. Jim Harbaugh found a way around this. You can't take photos with college coaches, so the players got in the background while Jim Harbaugh stood in the foreground, and therefore, technically, the picture was not with him. It was just a picture, and they just happened to be posing there. Sure. Jim Harbaugh, the other day, 2016's top-ranked kicker, Quinn Nordin, revealed that Jim Harbaugh invited himself over to his house to sleep on the carpet in his room. Why? Again, I promise you, I don't know. But Jim Harbaugh and his disdain for rules and his desire to break all of them is great for sports. The fact that we can talk about recruiting and not talk about like all the boring stuff in recruiting, and I'm just going to be completely honest with you here, it's almost all boring. This is Clutch with Keon Rose, a sports show where I don't want to talk about recruiting because it's rough. It's not something that I want to talk about at all. Not until signing day. Signing day is the day where I get to pretend that like I know stuff, and it's just like, oh, who's going here? And I follow literally everyone on Twitter. If they are a sports content producer that matters on this earth, I follow them. That day is a great day. It's like a rolling feed of just stupid information. And that's the day. Okay, stuff's happening. People are going places. They're committing. You know, I'm not interested in the recruiting trail before then. Not for 1 second. Okay? When they sign on the line, which is dotted, then, and only then, do I want to go and pay attention to recruiting. There's no interest in it. But Jim Harbaugh is making me have an interest in this right now. Jim Harbaugh is making me pay attention to recruiting because antics. There's a text message between a couple of players, and one player says, wait, is Harbaugh sleeping over at your house too? And the kid goes, yeah, LMAO. Because Jordan Elliott is the name of the kid, the Michigan commit from Houston, Texas, a defensive tackle. Jim Harbaugh is spending the night at his house. He is sleeping at his house, which is kind of cool. Like if I were a high school kid, like as dorky and lame as that sounds, like really, Jim Harbaugh? These are high school kids. What are you doing? You're not going to go over there and play PlayStation. Like, what are you doing? Like, as stupid as that sounds, and as much as I just want to, just come down on Jim Harbaugh and go, bruh, this is stupid, and how could you do this? I really kind of admire it. Because right now, I'm like, if I were in high school and had any athletic talent at all, which I don't because my knees are destroyed, if I did, I would want to be recruited by Jim Harbaugh. Like, I would desire it and seek it out. That would be cool. I remember the summer that Jim Harbaugh he was in my room, slept on my carpet. We played some PlayStation. Just the guys. Finished off a liter of Mountain Dew. I would. Why not? You got to do whatever it is that the high school kids want. They want you to sleep over, you sleep over. They want the funky uniforms with the 13 different colors on it. Give it to them. The rest of us old farts, I guess, can just complain about how, back in our day, there were only 2 jersey colors. There's orange and there was white. That's all that mattered. It's like, yeah, well, now you wear gray in your uniform too because it looks cool. You just got to change with the times. If the times require sleepovers, there's nothing unmanly about that. If the times require sleepovers, you do sleepovers. You just do it. You worry about it later. And am I selling my soul for the sake of college football championships? You're darn tootin' I am. So, Butch Jones should get in on that action. I mean, Butch Jones is a great recruiter, but imagine if you could put yourself over the top by participating in sleepovers. Okay? Because you know what? Tennessee's not going to tolerate another start like last season. Mr. Jones. You know, you're Urban Meyer. You won a title last year. You're Nick Saban. You won a title this year. Don't worry about it. We pretty much know where you stand in the history of college football anyway. But you don't have a ring. You need to be doing what it takes to get that ring. Sleepovers. If that's what works. And I think that Jim Harbaugh is the kind of guy that's just like, what is a loophole here that I can use? And then for reasons completely unknown, Jim Harbaugh with the loophole. I don't know what caused him to think about that, but man, because it doesn't seem legal, right? Just like sleepovers. But I guess there's nothing against that. There isn't. You visit the player's home. No, nothing says that you have to leave in any particular amount of time. But to me, it's just like, what could they possibly be doing? And on a scale of 1 to incredibly awkward, how awkward is that? You're just chilling in your room. Jim Harbaugh's chilling there. Can you imagine chilling in your room? You've got Brett Bielema. Can you imagine? Because I can't. I'm having a lot of trouble wrapping my mind around that. I'm just chilling in my room, and oh look, there's Brett Bielema. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you even talk about? I have no idea. Seriously. The number is 800-8949. What do you talk about if you're in your room with a college coach and he's just chilling there with you? It's just you and Butch Jones. First off, I think Butch Jones is probably worse. At least Brett Bielema is going to say things. You know, he's going to talk. Butch Jones, so quiet. Butch Jones, I imagine Butch Jones is being a great recruiter because he knows what to say to parents. I don't know what it is that Butch Jones is telling these kids that make them all fired up to go after him, because like they're just people. They're just not inspiring me to just go that extra mile. Like, yeah, I hear the voice of Butch Jones. That's putting me over the top. I don't think so. I mean, look at the Republican candidates. I don't hear the voice of Ben Carson and think to myself, that is a man that I could follow. Maybe his ideas, but his voice. I'm talking about literally just his voice. That's not, nope. Never had that thought. Like, this guy here, he's a leader of men. Ted Cruz. This guy here. This guy here, he's a leader. Not on voice alone. I tell you that right now. Conversely, I don't hear the voice of Bernie Sanders and think that either. Or Hillary Clinton. I'm not listening to them and going, you know what? That's a person I would follow all the way. Ironically, the person with that voice is Trump. And who is most like Trump in college football? I would argue Jim Harbaugh. Unnecessary and untold amounts of confidence for no good reason. Crazy ideologies. Skirting the rules. Jim Harbaugh is college football's Trump. That is the conclusion that literally I just came to right now. You listen to Donald Trump, you could actually follow Donald Trump just basically. He sounds like a guy who knows what he's doing. He doesn't, but like he sounds like a guy who knows what he's doing. So there's that, I guess. But like, what do? You in a room, Butch Jones, it's your room. You're a high school student. What do you do? Because I know Butch Jones isn't playing Xbox with you. Right? Like he might go Wii Sports with the family. He's not playing Xbox with you. You know what I mean? Like the two of you just sitting down and playing Call of Duty. It's not happening. Okay, it's just I can't imagine it. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. Got no recourse for that. All right. There's no way of looking at that makes any sense. But here's Jim Harbaugh going around the nation going, you know what? These are teenage boys. The one thing that I need to do to be successful is to sleep in their rooms. And how does a man get to that point in his life? You know how? where winning is the only thing that matters. This guy is a 17-year-old boy. You know what he's always wanted? A grown man to sleep on his floor. That's what he wanted. Grown man sleeping on his floor. I've got a 6'3" rug. You can sleep on that, Mr. Harbaugh. Okay. And then he did it. And then he was like, okay, fine. For a kicker. Which, no disrespect to kickers. Kickers are important. Kickers aren't important until they are important. As Clemson found out in the national title game, that, you overlook Alabama's kicker until that man kicks the most perfect onside kick in the history of college sports. Then, yeah, fine. Kickers aren't important until they are. But I'm going after this kicker so hard, I'm willing to sleep on this dude's floor? No thanks, man. Don't sign me up for that one. Just don't. Just don't. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. This is AM 1240 Odd News Talk Radio. Jim Harbaugh is great for sports. Not unlike Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, great for sports.
Not having it.
Not having it. Also great for sports is drunk Johnny Gomes. Drunk anybody, really, but Johnny Gomes in particular, because he was so specifically drunk. I couldn't help myself. I just started laughing. I died laughing multiple times. Resurrected and continued to die laughing.
It's unbelievable what those boys did.
Unbelievable what those boys did. Huge fan of drunk Johnny Gomes. And Jim Harbaugh is right in that stratosphere. The things that he says that normal people don't say. The things that he just lobs out there as just vague words that people just don't say in real life. Like, I like inspirational quotes as much as the next person. But Jim Harbaugh seems to have an endless supply of them in a way that doesn't even make sense. I mean, that man is gone. It's gone deep in the bucket of inspirational quotes and seemingly is never found wanting. So I'm interested in seeing what the NCAA is about to do to Jim Harbaugh to make him follow the rules, to try and bring this man that doesn't like to be pulled in line to be pulled in line. You know what I mean? I mean, he doesn't like it. He obviously doesn't, because he's just finding loopholes everywhere. But if that's what they felt they had to do. The thing about this is, do other coaches try to do this? And it's just like Jimbo Fisher in your kid's room. And if you're the parent of that kid, like, do you make them leave the door open? Like, what is the policy there? I have no idea. There's no precedent for what this is. We have 2 instances of unprecedented coaching in 1 week. First, Nick Saban exploits the Clemson defense. Goes for an onside kick to start the fourth quarter. I mean, the way that he lined them up, that it's a genius. And maybe I should do the breakdown on that tomorrow. I did have it in my notes today, but then the Jim Harbaugh take went longer than I thought. Maybe I'll do the breakdown, not tomorrow, but Monday. I'll do the breakdown of that, because it is a genius play. But Jim Harbaugh is also revolutionizing things and taking college football to unprecedented heights by sleeping in the room of young high school recruits. And yesterday, Tennessee was playing Georgia. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Tennessee played Georgia last night. Again, a game that you didn't want any part of. Georgia was a 4-point favorite. They covered, in case you were wondering, but that was no guarantee. Georgia's got a couple of good players, J.J. Frazier and Kenny Gaines. Frazier had 28 points. Gaines had 23. And the thing I really like about the two of them, they shoot the 3-ball well. They shoot the 3-ball well. J.J. Frazier, 4 of 5 from 3. Kenny Gaines, 6 of 10. And, I read a CBS Sports article on it. And is it fair to call them the college version of the Splash Brothers? Nobody's quite Steph. But between Frazier and Gaines, when the two of those guys just start heating up, like they're really hard to stop. And I know Georgia hasn't been great this season, but they're good. And I underestimated Georgia. I really did. They had a 53-point second half, man. Outscored Tennessee 53-37 in the second half, and they were just filling it up. They were feeling it from three. You know, and J.J. Frazier almost had a double-double. He had 8 rebounds as well. They were just pouring it in, and it looked like, not to just throw that around lightly, but it looked like the Warriors. It really did. They pulled up from behind 3 about 5 feet. Like there was just confidence there in the shots between Frazier and Gaines. I might watch some more Georgia basketball. Like I thought, you know, I thought that was a game that I didn't really want a lot to do with. I watched the Wizards instead play the Bucks because that's my team. I root for the Wizards. The Wizards won. It wasn't, you know, an impressive game. John Wall's injured. It's bad, but I would rather have watched Georgia and Tennessee. And LSU beat Ole Miss last night also, which is helping LSU's chances here. They look up and down. Antonio Blakeney, he got removed from the starting lineup, but he had an outburst. Ben Simmons, again, filling in the stat sheet, 15 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. But it's Blakeney pouring in 15 from off the bench. Craig Victor, the second, 18 points as well. I like this LSU team a lot, but man, they are so inconsistent. They are so inconsistent. And in the SEC, the class of the SEC, still South Carolina. I know they lost to Alabama last night, and they lost by 23. It was bad. It was ugly. It was hideous. Not something I would have recommended to anybody I knew to watch that game. I didn't watch that game because I actually thought that South Carolina was going to handle Alabama pretty easily. So, yeah, wrong about that one. Riley Norris, 27 points. Made this man look like the second coming of Michael Jordan. And South Carolina didn't have enough punch from anybody. Double-double from Michael Carrera, but didn't have enough punch from anybody. And so, you know, they're going to fall down in those rankings. They're number 19th in the nation. They're ranked higher than any other SEC team in the nation. Or check that. A&M is. But, like, they're going to fall because of that loss to Alabama. It was just so bad. But they play Saturday night. They play Missouri, a chance at redemption there. But a game that I'm really now interested in seeing Saturday at 2, Texas A&M and Georgia. The College Splash Brothers versus the best team in the SEC. Make sure you check that one out. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Search Hot News Talk Radio. We're the first thing that comes up. We interact. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds.